What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome everybody to 100 Talk. Sorry for the late start tonight. Got a lot of things going on, but we are more than happy to finally be on with you tonight to talk about what in the world this past weekend meant. Jordan, how are you?
I'm great, Cole. We have a couple of things going on tonight, which is exactly twice as many things as we usually have going on tonight. 2x.
Yes.
Or actually, it's not even true. It's more than 2x, let's be honest.
Yes, we had a force multiplier here for the show.
Exponential.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry about the late start, but this is 100 Talk. We're your favorite dads. I'm Cole. That's Jordan. This is the only podcast in the world powered by Ripid Energy.
Yeah, that's right.
And the best tasting energy drink ever. The only one that actually tastes good and is worth your time. So I'll be excited to sip the rip as we talk about what a weird weekend it's been for us. So, you know, if there's one thing that's consistent about the show, it's that we can always say, what a weird weekend. I don't know what to think. That's
right,
like
even
the
when we get the
entire
2-0, it's kind of still a weird weekend because it's like, well, that was unexpected. Is that our only 2-0 this whole entire split, Cole?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. Which just feels weird. I'm gonna be real honest with you. Yeah, man, the weird times continue. And I think also one of the only times that you and I unanimously predicted a 2-0 in a long time.
I knew I was gonna get called out for that, man. The one time I had the optimism.
But I'm more focused on the fact that we were both there. It doesn't take that much to get me there, in all fairness. But we were both there, and we were both left disappointed at the altar.
Left at the altar, the 2-0 altar. Well, both of us were waiting to be wed to the same concept. This is one of the weirdest weddings you've ever heard of, but the point is it didn't happen.
Your analogy lets you down. This is not one of those times. You got exactly what I was hoping from on that one.
So, yes, that leaves us at a 1-1 weekend. At least it wasn't an 0-2.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't even close to an 0-2, really. So, I mean, there is that positive note that we have demonstrated again, Cole, that we are capable of absolutely steamrolling teams when we're hitting. And boy, were we hitting at one point this weekend. Not both points, but on one.
Well, gosh. Okay. So what we'll do is we're going to follow the normal show format and talk about these matches. I think we're going to do quicker, more surface level analysis of the matches than we typically do. But there's so much, like, I feel like even though the week was really weird, we learned some specific things about the team. So we can spend a good amount of time talking about that. Mm-hmm. So, first of all, subs are popping off right now. So thanks everyone. We normally don't shout out subs in the chat during this particular stream, but everybody's subbing. We appreciate that, man. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Okay.
Y'all are the best.
So the CLG game, Jordan. Wow. You know, I felt more confident about the CLG prediction than I did about the Golden Guardians thing. And 100 Thieves made sure that my faith in them was rewarded. Because, man, that looked like a fairly dominant 100 Thieves squad.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You had a great tweet, which was, it approached the dominance that we exhibited when we beat C9. And you can't always beat everybody as badly as beat C9. It's just not going to happen.
Wait. Tatted Sparrow just gifted 20 subs in the chat. Again, something we don't normally say, but when you give 20 subs, holy crap, man. Thank you, Tatted Sparrow, who already gifted a 50 piece when we beat C9. So that brings his total up to 70 already. Holy moly.
Are we at the kind of sad point, Cole, where any win now gets us massive love and appreciation?
Is that what the team has become?
It's like, yo, if we win anything, I got some subs on deck. Let's go.
Yeah, for real.
Well, thanks, Tatted Sparrow.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. That is never necessary, but always appreciated. So thank you for that. So yeah, what I actually tweeted was C9 almost did as well against us as CLG did, because we did complete the game without giving up a single turret, but unfortunately we did give away I think it was a Drake to
I
CLG.
think I got one turret, perhaps.
I don't. We'll have to check the replay. I'm pretty sure we didn't. But
oh wait, no, you're right.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think it was just a Drake. Whereas C9 got 0 objectives from us, period. Which just think about that. After what you saw against Golden Guardians, remember that C9 got 0 objectives against us.
Well, a bit of foreshadowing here, Cole. I was thinking about a different game in which only one turret was taken as the only objective.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, yeah, one Drake. That's all they got, and it felt like a formality, right? That was just kind of like a, yeah, sure,
yeah,
have it.
That's what it is now. Yeah. So yeah, we looked absolutely crazy against CLG, and how did we do it? We did it with the Graves early snowball. Mm-hmm. We did it with Cody Sun's return to form. We did it with Someday making some good Wukong plays, and we did it with what is becoming a very controversial topic, but something that's really awesome is that we did it with a Galio from Ryoma. So,
yeah, if there's any stat wizard in chat, I would love to know the LCS win rate for Galio in this split, because that champion has he always been? It's so funny. Has he always been this good? Turns out he used to be even better because you could flash taunt, right? Basically a very, the same kid, except it was even more powerful. It's kind of like everybody's realized. I think it's just the meta. It's the mid jungle synergy and how important it is. And on no other champion do we see the kind of insane empowerment to Contractz as Ryoma on the Galio. So again, the last time we saw this was against C9, I believe, and that went pretty well too.
Yeah. So, well, let's spend a minute talking about Ryoma and Galio, because I think it's indicative of what we're starting to find out with this guy, is that when you give him a mobile facilitator, he's thriving, right? When you ask him to play a champion that's less mobile or that is expected to carry, which we'll get into for the next game, it's just not the same play. So it seems like Galio is literally the ideal pick for him to be playing on at this moment. And I mean, what was it? I think he finished 5-0-12, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 5-0-12.
Yep.
Against CLG, and like looked great in the team fights. I think what we found out, I mean, you look at his stats. Damage is his thing. So he clearly likes to fight.
Right.
And the fighting is where he stands out. So you get him on something where he's not easily killed, but that he can facilitate a fight, he's all in, and it looks great. So my worry is that it's a bit of a pigeonhole for him.
Yes.
So that's gonna be the big thing we have to worry about.
I'm gonna say something here, Cole, which I don't usually do. I don't make these like weird, wouldn't it be great if, or, well, it'd be as simple as, but I wonder if we've just been using Ryoma wrong a little bit. The difference in how he looks on a champion like Galio compared to even an Orianna, right? But the control mage, which is very in vogue right now, I just feel like he's looked super flat, especially lately. This split, I don't think those champions have worked particularly well for him. He looks so much more comfortable on Galio. And one of the things I think is interesting is he really does mix it up, right? He's in there kind of knocking heads. He is not an R bot, right? Where he just stands out of vision and then presses R at the right time. And that's his contribution, which sometimes with Galio is enough. And that's, that's what you need, the knock up and the damage. And there you go. That's the fight. But he's had some pretty slick plays. And I believe it was this game where he, again, went in, kind of took another kill with his full combo, the dash, the Winds of Justice tornado name. And, he's feeling himself on this champ. And here's what I would say I don't usually do is, so maybe we've been using him wrong. I wish there were other champs we could find that were similar to this, that he could really play this style on. And I know that there's only one Galio in League of Legends, but what other kinds of things like this might we be able to find him? Because, and I won't get into this now, but I do feel like the way we're using him now, I think the case to continue using him in that way is diminishing over time.
Yeah.
Right. I think that just that entire argument is kind of eroding as you start thinking about 2021.
Yeah. And one of the things that Shmuley said in chat, which is, the worrisome conclusion here is, what if Ryoma and Galio become Stunt on Nautilus, right? Where it's like, that's the functional way to play, but that's the only thing you really have to worry about when it comes to the mid lane.
Right. Or like a Cody Sun Ash or something, like if that were to ever happen. I don't know if that would ever happen, but
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're to that point yet. You know what I mean?
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, but we're going to talk about that too.
Yeah, but I don't think we're like at the point where this is truly at there, and even if it is, I don't think it's to the degree.
Right. We know that Cody Sun has a much wider champion pool. We've seen him use that.
Yeah, no, I'm even talking about Ryoma, like comparing Ryoma to the Stunt Nautilus thing.
Yeah. Yep. But what I think we can say is, boy, he's looked better on that champ than others, and to a certain degree, that's concerning, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's fair to say that our two strongest games of the split have come with him, playing it. So, that's the piece we got to find out. Now, the other thing that we're seeing emerge is this Contractz early game thing, which isn't so surprising, right? Like, I think we all knew that this is how Contractz was going to play things once he was on the team, is that he's going to try and invade. He's going to try and out farm and get the ganks off and set everyone up. And he's just going for like complete dominance in the early game so that the other jungler is virtually out of the game, and when we get the right team comp around him, this has worked to absolute perfection. So it's almost like Contractz performance is, super dependent on draft, like way more than we would like it to be. Cause it's like, what tools do we give him at the beginning? And then that's going to determine what happens. So how are you feeling about Contractz during this game when he's, on the Graves going into, I think it was a set jungle, right? That Wiggly was playing, totally out farming him, making like, I did have one question. Okay. So he was all over. He basically owned the map early, but the gold lead was basically even. So that obviously didn't seem to matter. So what's going on in your opinion, like with Contractz and the gold lead and the map state and everything? Do you have any thoughts about this as a whole?
I would need to go back and actually look at snapshots to see where that might have been the case. I mean, obviously in this situation, I would say it didn't matter much one way or the other. So, it could be a number of things, right? It could be that some of their champs are more heavily weighted toward lane presence. I believe the Pobelter Oriana was doing a pretty good job farming. So, those kinds of things happen. I think what we're finding with Contractz, though, is that, he is so aggressive. He does so much of his jungling in the enemy's jungle. I think you can kind of create a situation where you just start to starve them out. I mean, look no further than Wiggly. He finished the game with 163 CS. So that's very low.
Yeah.
He was 0-4-3. He was basically a non-factor in that game. And again, all kinds of different things that contribute to that. But that's the power of Contractz, and him on the Graves with the phase rush too, like so slippery. There were a couple of situations where he looked dead to rights and he just scooted on out of their jungle. Okay, see you guys later then. And what they've done is wasted their time just running in to try to, maybe it's like, oh, thanks for the leash. But you have 3 guys there to collect 1 red buff. And well, that's not a great use of your time. So, I do think that when he's on, and here's the thing I'm starting to feel about Contractz. Let me know what you think on this. I feel like the games where we're not winning through him, which it feels like with this roster, that's the game plan. Win through Contractz. And, there's an Olaf game there where he didn't get that early snowball, and I think he still did a pretty good job of remaining relevant. We talked about that game. We talk about every game. But the the thing that I'm starting to see and suspect is we're really not losing games because he's misplaying key moments, right? Like I can't think of a game where, except maybe like one of the first week, right, where clearly he was still getting his LCS legs back. Like he's not inting, right?
Right.
There are some games where I think the team comp just doesn't work. And then when you're an aggressive jungler, I think there are bad moments, right, where you get caught, and people come to help you, and it doesn't matter. But I'm not getting the sense, like I don't have a lot of feelings when I'm watching these games of like, oh boy, here we go again. It's the Contractz show, and
yeah,
what is he doing there? I think he knows the plan, and I think he executes it well. It's when the rest of the team doesn't come together around him that I think we start to get into more trouble. Certainly in this game, I felt really good, and I think he had a big part in getting basically the entire team snowballing. Everybody who we needed to start hitting was hitting hard in this game.
Yeah, which is really interesting. This is kind of why I brought up the gold thing, because top lane and bot lane farm wise were down significantly early. Mm-hmm. And so like the lane states were just kind of weird. Ryoma was down early as well, but at some point, like kind of early in the game, I don't think I have a timestamp on my note about this, but Ryoma was down like almost 30 CS, but he still had a 350 gold lead on Poe Belter.
Right.
Just because of, all the action that was going on across the map. So it's weird. It's like, even though Contractz is going off, like the lanes themselves were falling behind when it comes to farm. So it's just like, just pump in enough kills to make up for the difference, and make sure that everybody's in position to take down towers at the right times, which we also did in this game very well. Mm-hmm. And that problem sort of takes care of itself, which you'd think would be like an excellent thing, especially as we continue our Ryoma discussion, where it's like, this guy just tends to lose in lane, right? Farming's one of his difficulties, and so if what Contractz is able to do neutralizes that and makes it so that doesn't really matter, it's like, an amazingly strong thing for the team, which is probably why we look so incredible when he does that.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, it's an interesting situation, right? And I think against a better team, I mean, Wukong's going to lose. He's going to lose the lane phase to a certain degree. He's just not set up to outfarm people, especially if you have a ranged champ like Ken and you're trying to not feed against.
Yeah, that's like a known thing.
It's just part of it,
right?
And the first time that somebody played Wukong, I think part of what had happened in that game is similar situation. He looked more comfortable this time on Wukong, which I was very glad to see. But when he showed up to these team fights, he was far behind, and he didn't have the kills padding his inventory to be relevant. And so he'd spin and die. And this one, he was hitting harder. He was tankier. He was able to withstand more, which, that was the difference, I feel like. So yeah, again, kind of like that was the difference, is that our jungler was able to start to get people the kills they needed, the lane pressure they needed, so that we could take the turrets. We could find the gold in other places. Galio, another example of, right, you don't expect him to win the lane, especially if you're up against a control mage. He's just not going to do that, I would say. So I think what we're starting to see, Cole, is that when we win games, when this roster wins games, it tends to look like this. And when it works, and it's fantastic. Yeah. And it's fun. It's super fun to watch. And when it falls flat, boy, does it fall flat.
Yeah, it falls very flat. One of the things we said going into this week was that we needed Cody Sun to step up and show that, he's going to play like the veteran he is, and like the world's ADC that he can be, right? Yeah. And I feel like he really answered the call in this game. Specifically looked to have remedied all the things that were wrong with his Ashe play in the previous weekend, where, the arrows were hitting, the timing was good, nice laning phase. I mean, of course, Ashe Thresh is a strong lane. You and I have proven that. on our streams,
Many times.
because we're the best meta makers in the world.
It's free low. Yep.
But Cody did genuinely look very good on the Ashe that day. And so that part of it was really promising too, because to me, it wasn't just, hey, Contractz and someday like took over this game and won it for us. It was like, no, everybody's clickety clack. Like it was good. So I wanted to make that observation because guess what? In game 2, which we're going to move into right now, everything like fell apart. It was like whatever little linchpin is in there, they just pulled it out, and the whole thing collapsed.
Let me propose one thing here really quick. I feel like one of the primary differences with Cody Sun in this game is that he was hitting his arrows, right? And I think this is just I don't really know. I don't watch the ADCs on other teams as closely, so I can't say to you that he misses a higher number of ultimate skill shots than other ADCs in the league right now. But if it's fair, whether it's fair or not, that has become a thing, right? That, Aphelios, it seems like he misses those. And certainly we've seen Ashe games where he misses those, right? He hits right through the uprights, and that's 3 points if you're playing football, but 0 if you're playing league. So this game felt like he was on. I think somebody said it was like point and click, one of the casters. And that's how it felt, right? It felt like he just, that's a guaranteed hit. So I think that was a big difference. And I don't, there are some games where he gets caught out. And that's the other thing that I think we've seen more lately that is very concerning to me. Wasn't a thing in this game. And I think in large part because he had such damage potential by the time he entered these fights. If you're an ADC with as much damage potential as he had as he entered these fights, you create your own. There is no bad positioning, right?
Yeah.
Unless you walk straight, face check 3 or 4 people. Like I think there was a fight or two where he was in the back of the dragon pit, just 1v1ing. The person was sprinting away from him. Great positioning, right? Like, well done. So I feel like that is a significant difference in this game. And I'm sure you felt that as somebody who plays a lot of ADC. When you're hitting, you have a bubble around you, right? You're chasing people instead of, trying to make sure that you don't actually run into anyone ever until the exact right moment. So I saw a little bit of that too. Like it felt like he was just pouring arrows into the enemy team the entire game. And I think it's because they were really afraid of him.
Yeah, I can't wait for the comments to be like, well, no, there is bad positioning even when you are a strong ADC. But
yeah.
Oh man, I love YouTube. Okay,
it's
anyway,
different if people run towards you versus away from you. That's the difference I'm picking up on here.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so that's the softball discussion because that's the CLG game, and things were peachy then. We were different then, man. It was a different time. We were in our golden honeymoon years or whatever you call them. But then the Golden Guardians game happened.
The good old Saturdays, Cole.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I felt kind of uneasy when I predicted Golden Guardians to lose to us, and here's why. Because I'm cursed. And I'm cursed in that the players I tend to like the least will be the ones to take us down. So I'm thinking about Demonte in this case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it turns out that we lost this game before Demonte even got to click on anything. So we need to walk through the draft of this game and talk about some of the, shall we say, key missteps of the draft. Now, I'll put the same disclaimer on this that I've put on other times that we've talked about the draft specifically. I am one of the least likely people to point to the draft and say we lost because of the draft. Okay, I reserve that criticism for times when I really mean it. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and say this time I really mean it. I felt like we just got played really bad during draft. Yeah. So, I'll do the quick run through of the draft, and then we'll focus in on the key points. Okay.
Yeah.
So, bans were Graves, Nidalee, Azir from Golden Guardians. We banned Twisted Fate, Ezreal, and Galio. Okay. So Galio's off the table. We ban Ezreal. Pick start coming in. Olaf is the first choice. Dang, that's our champion. We answer with Ashe. All right. And then we take Lee Sin. Then we take Lee Sin. Then Golden Guardians answers with Aphelios and Karma. Karma, the champion that you cannot pair with Olaf and lose. And we chose Bard in response. Then break. Bands come in. Jace, Syndra from them. Ornn, Rumble from us. Wasn't mad at those bands, to be honest. But then back to the picks. We take Kennen. We blind pick. Well, we think we are blind picking Kennen.
Yeah.
And then they answer with Set, which puts everybody's radars up like, uh-oh. Could there be some flex action coming in here? And then Zoe is the final choice for them. And we answer with Orianna. So that's how the draft played out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jordan, where would you like to start with where this was embarrassing?
I propose, Cole, that we start with the first of more than one mortal errors. If you would like to take us there.
The Karma?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the Karma thing. I feel like chat, I don't mean this literally, but I feel like we invented this, right? when we ran Karma Olaf, the casters.
Cole, have you watched the LCK at all? I'm not sure if you know what you're saying here.
The casters were literally like squealing with joy as they watched the Karma Olaf combo coming out from us against C9. All right, it was like total catharsis for everyone. It was like, wow, look at this. And we let them do that to us. We openly let him out. And why? So we could grab Lee Sin? Like, was that not going to be something we could take later?
Yeah.
Like, the order of operations here seemed really unusual to me. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, look, they grabbed Olaf already. So it's not like we don't know what they're going to take into the jungle.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I don't know. It's not,
I mean,
do we have to lock in Ashley Sin as our first answer picks there? Like, what were we gambling that we didn't think that they would take the Karma? Like, what?
Let me make the same disclaimer that you've made previously. There may be an answer to this that I'm not thinking of because I'm not a genius. But here's something I've had in my mind, Cole, and it's that you as a team, each team gets 3 picks in the first round of pick ban. And so even if you really want Lee Sin and you do not want him to get banned, you could pick him third. Are you worried they're going to pick Lee Sin third? or you know, in their next, like, what? It's going to be there if you really need to have it. So I'm also at a loss on why that received the priority it did. Just to be very, very plain in my language here.
So can we just say that was weird and just leave it there? Like, that was weird. We let them have it. Okay. And then to our great dismay, it becomes a flex pick later on in the draft. So it's not like they hurt us once with the Karma. They hurt us in multiple ways during this whole draft as soon as they locked in that Karma. So it's just like, gosh, man, like, that was already basically a checkmate in the thing, and we could have totally prevented it. And if we didn't want to play Karma, okay, but like, you kind of have to at that point. You know what they're going to do, or at least have a better answer or something. But we didn't have an answer. In fact, then we turned around and, like I said, we thought that we were blind picking Kennen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so taking Kennen, showing our hand basically, which that in and of itself is kind of a weird pick for me. I don't know. It's not like we've seen like a ton of Kennen someday.
Yeah. Well, it's
so if you're gonna blind something, are you gonna blind that?
Yeah. There's just so many different ways that someday can hurt at the enemy team. And, Kennen is not the one that jumps to the top of my mind. It's not one that I'm like, oh boy, they are in for a show. I get it. If you can have someday generate a massive lead, the mid-game team fight becomes an absolute nightmare, right? You talk about objective control with a fed Kennen, one of the easier ways to just completely neutralize a team. He shows up and everybody gets stunned out. He's zooming around. He's doing tons of damage. Like, I get it. I can see where that would be a really scary pick. But we got out drafted. They flexed the karma up there, which is, it's not a super favorable matchup. The opportunity to really dominate that lane is not there. And I think if you're, if that's part of your game plan is to get him to a point where he can win you a team fight by himself, blind picking it, it's a risk. It's a straight up risk because Haunster has a wide champion pool. I think that was the 10th unique champ played this split.
Yeah, they said something like that. Yeah, been playing.
He plays a lot of champs. Point being, he's not a one trick, right? So he's got a lot of options in his arsenal to answer your blind pick Kennen. And turns out his weapon of choice is already drafted. Cole, it was karma.
Yeah, so it's like I don't understand what. I'm sorry. I have a hard time. I know it's because I have a hard time understanding what our plan was here when we showed that hand. It's like, especially because look, if you play this out the other way, it's like, okay, we're gonna save like the awesome counter pick for Zoe or whatever. And like Orianna for Ryoma has not historically been that. In fact, Zoe has been extremely problematic for us to play against. I know that they banned out Syndra, right? Which would be a nice champ there for him. But man, we saved all that for Orianna. Like, couldn't we have we might as well at that point blind Ryoma, and yeah. in that way, we definitely see where they're going to put everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think Orianna is considered a safer pick. It's a lot less of a weird blind than Kennen.
Yeah. And then here's the thing though. It's like, because we were so thoroughly out drafted, like, so say they draft down the line and they have the karma set, right? And we don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the thing. It's like karma set could be the support or the top, right? Karma could be the support. Even they were talking about taking it mid. Demonte could take it mid. So it's basically like in this place, we were so thoroughly checkmated that no matter what we did, there would have been a good answer. So why are we blinding Kennen again? I would have liked to at least see that in reverse order, like blind Orianna and then live with what comes next. But
right.
Goodness.
Well, especially because someday, we talked in last game about how Contractz has the ability to be our win condition, right? We've not been able to say that about a lot of people on this team in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He can be that for us. We've seen it, and it's worked really well. At top of the league, Cloud9. So some days our backup option. It just feels like if we're gonna potentially hamstring him in a game, everything has to go exactly as we want it to, right? Like the rest, and they already pinched Contractz. They got 2 of his favorite champs banned out, and they first picked Olaf. So he's now on fourth favorite Lee Sin, which he's still good on, but is definitely not his favorite, not my favorite for him to pick. So they got us, man. It was really a dominant performance in the draft, and we don't say that very often, and that is what this was, right? There's not a lot of other ways to look at it, and I don't think you need to look much further than we've talked 11 minutes now about this game. It's entirely been about the draft, and we're not even done yet. There's still more to talk about.
I was gonna say, of course, that in and of itself could explain the whole game. There's more we can talk about, and we will. But they just had like the symbolic start of the game. I thought was so like, I mean, it was good for them, but it was insulting. So they did the.
Can I say one more thing about the draft before we
get into
sure. For actual plays?
Sure.
the icing on this masterclass, Cole, was the set.
Yeah.
Because you blind pick a Kennen, the set literally just removes your Kennen from the fight. He just moves him out of the fight and it completely cancels him. So even if somebody gets as strong as he wants to be, and we know he can be, set just presses R and he jumps him over a wall, and your Kennen is done for the fight. That is like, it's so, it just, we were defeated. We were dead, Cole. There was no way.
And they knew it. And that's why they stacked that bush at the very beginning of the game. Yep. And when Poome went to go check it, this man dodged like 4,000 skill shots on the way out. He dodged things I didn't think were dodgeable. But it didn't matter because they had so many people there that they were able to get all the way basically under our turret from where that bush was and finally kill him off. He had to level the portal so he couldn't drop shrines. And it was like GG right away. It was right away. And it was, and like when Poome, seeing Poome do that, it was just like, oh my gosh, like he dodged so much. In any other game, that's enough to get out. And he wasn't able to. And that to me was like the specter hanging over this game.
At the end, I think it was Mark C who was like, just accept your death, like take the Warriors exit. I disagree with that. He was so close.
He was so close.
And I get it. Starting E on Bard it's the worst option for you. It's the worst option. There are no worse options than that. So that's bad. And he blew his flash, right? He put it all in. He also got, I think, a couple of flashes at least from it. It's like they spent a lot to try to get that. But I think like here's what I took from that fight. That dude is insanely skilled on a micro level. That was nuts.
Yeah.
He I don't know if I've seen somebody who is dead survive that long before. That was pretty crazy. I mean, he met them in the bush behind the dragon pit, and he died under our turret in the bot lane at level 1. At level 1, dude. That is a long way to walk when all you have is one spell that has like a 16-second cooldown at level 1. So he was using his he had 2 spells. The second was his right click, and he used that one really well. So it was so close. I think it was the right play to make, especially because of how dead we were after that draft, right? Like, I think you got to go for it. You got to try to make those low percentage plays. I wasn't mad at him for taking E on the start because the Olaf got the kill as well. It's doomed, Yeah,
and that was the thing. So the snowball happened quickly for them. The Olaf getting the kill right at the beginning, and then he immediately goes up 2 camps on Contractz and basically never looks back. Like that's basically the end. Closer is a good jungler, man. He's really good. And so it's not like, it's not like we can get away with this, right?
Right.
We have to be able to respond. And credit to the team for trying to find a way to do a thing here or there. Their Contractz had a really nice gank on Hanser. That was really nice. And Poome was like looking for some stuff in bot lane that never really panned out. But then we had one of the most embarrassing plays we've had in a long time. And it was like 90% only embarrassing because of our nemesis, the guy that I love to hate, Damonte. Because if he didn't play it so poorly, it wouldn't have looked so bad for us. Okay, so you guys have all seen this play. I saw it on Twitter. I saw people making fun of it, doing the like pouring bleach on your eyes with like the NA stuff. We sent 4 into the mid lane onto Damonte's Zoe. And Poome throws a tempered fade out. And Damonte is late with his portal jump to dodge it. Okay. But the team doesn't realize he was late because you hit that tempered fate stasis back in the portal, and then you come back with it. So
he started the R cast and then got, he got
clipped.
stopwatched in the middle of it.
Yeah. And so it finishes out. And then everything we threw after that was basically, it would have been on time if he had dodged the original. But because he didn't, because he was too slow, because his mechanics sucked, he got away with it and made us look terrible. And then to make matters worse, Ryoma tried that really late shockwave.
Bro, that was not a good shot.
I honestly, like, at that point, I was already feeling like the game was over right when we ended draft. But at that point, I was like, I might not watch.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have.
Yeah, I will have less fun the longer I watch this game. Confirmed. I know it's not going to end well. That was like the ultimate tilter, man.
Yeah, and he even flashed the emotes afterwards. He did the thumbs up. He did the camping. Oh my gosh, dude.
In his defense, Cole, and I don't think I've ever defended DeMonte. If that happens to you, it's probably hard to play because of how hard you're laughing. That was... I think you have no choice but to emote. Like, what other option do you have? I mean, yeah, that was maybe a low point.
Yeah, that was one of the single most embarrassing plays I think we've seen from this team, like ever.
Every ult.
We threw so much out at him and it all went to waste against him of all people. You know? Like the only other player we would do that to is Solo. And then Solo would be like, and his player can't.
His player can't. Is this guy for real?
Yeah.
Are these guys for real?
So we do need to talk about something situationally for this game, though. And that is that the one like high of the game, the one hope we had left was actually Ryoma in this instance, right? So Ryoma actually got into a pretty good lane situation. He was up big in this game.
Yep.
And like he had something like 50-60 farm lead over DeMonte. So this is what I was alluding to earlier. Basically in this game, everything fell by the wayside. Like the whole plan fell apart. Contractz was virtually a non-factor, right? Because they won the early snowball jungle thing.
Mm-hmm.
Someday was behind. Cody and Poome were getting slapped pretty bad. And that left Ryoma, who's in a good lane position, and he's the one hope we have to carry us back into the game. And when you have a true proven carry player, you would expect that at least you have, that going for you. Ryoma was basically unable to find anything valuable in this whole game for us. So he wasn't able to do anything with that lead. And that sucked. It was like, I felt like all the variables kind of got isolated. Now, look, I understand it's hard to be good when your team is not, right? Like, I get that, guys. But he having like such like an ability to power spike did not do so. He didn't find anything. Like if you're the Fed player, if you're the player that like, okay, it's on me. It's like it's your responsibility. It's your job to find those plays to turn the game. You got to find the right shockwave, which, hey, he's done that in the past too. When the pressure hasn't been so direct on him, but he was unable to do so in this game. And I mean, I don't know, like, so it just felt like it was like a microscopic look at just him. Like, what can he do in this game situation? And turns out the answer was pretty much nothing, which is a tough pill to swallow finishing up week 7 of LCS.
Man, I don't think this is me being charitable. That game was so doomed. I don't think he could have carried it. Like, I don't think he was hitting shockwaves. Nothing happened. There was no damage to follow it. It was very easy to itemize.
Well, there were like a couple of really desynced engages from the team where it looked like no one knew what was doing. It was like, oh, okay, we're not doing anything. Oh, wait, we could maybe engage here. And then someone throws something out and there's no follow-up. Like, that happened like a couple times where it was pretty obvious that the team didn't agree on what play to make. So
right. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's definitely true. He couldn't 1v9. I mean, how many times has Someday been in this situation though, and we give him a pass, right? I just want to make sure we're being fair, where he has been on a champ that he's had a lead and he couldn't turn it into anything, right?
Sure.
That we've had those games too. Now, I do think, and this is what's so hard about this, is what scale do you use and how do you judge people? You think about some of the best mids, and I think they do have the ability to, even if they're not entirely fed, right? Like adapt their play style, do things differently a little bit, find picks. If a big objective is coming up, be in the right place at the right time to blow up a Zoe or something, like, that is possible. And we didn't see that, that's for sure. But I have a hard time giving too much flack to anybody in this game just because of where we started, which was like the level 1 death, give it to Olaf. He was absolutely shredding us, in these team fights. And I think it became very easy for them to just absolutely, burst people down. And there wasn't time. A lot of the shockwaves he was hitting was one moment before he died because Olaf was breathing down his neck and incredibly strong. So I think that's where I'm at. It doesn't change significantly my thought on Ryoma right now. And we can talk more about that in maybe kind of a more general sense. But I didn't see this game as a particular failure of his to capitalize on something he should have capitalized on. I thought, if anything, he did a good job to maintain a CS lead and, try to remain relevant. Because that was, I think, the best he could hope to do against the Olaf. You have no way to stop him if you're a potential carry champion on our team.
Yeah, well, I'm going to come back to that when we talk about the team in general here shortly, because there's just we learn more and more pieces of the puzzle as we go on, and we see the team in different situations, and this was one of those situations, where we can learn what he's going to do in that situation. And yeah. I get it. I get what you're saying. That's why I said at the beginning, I get that the team was so far behind, and it's hard to do that when the whole team is falling apart. Certain players can do that though, and that's what you look for in an import mid laner, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that you'd ideally want, a way back into the game via your import carry. So just put that out there. All right. I think one more thing on this game, and then we'll talk general and wrap up.
But one more point. The last thing you said got me to think something.
Okay.
We have seen Ryu do that. There have been Akali games where he absolutely did that.
Against
he had a
CLG. That's right.
A shining play that saved the game for us. So I think in that sense, I think you're right. Yeah. Like the heroics are possible. It just takes a little bit of a different look. I don't, so point taken. I think that is something that we shouldn't assume can't be done because Ryu has shown us that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. And then the one last thing I want to mention is that Poome had another lackluster game.
Yep.
On the board. Now, I think I come down more positively than most people do on this. I saw a lot of people, including our resident Diamond Bard main in chat, really like talking about this being a bad game for Poome. I didn't think it was that bad. Like when I went back and rewatched some moments, I saw that things that he was whiffing on were actually like either zoning or getting summoner spells out. Like he whiffed a couple Tempered Fates, but when you go back, it's like actually there was a flash there that was hard to notice when the actual thing happened. He was getting stuff out. Some of the stuff was disengaging. I'm not saying he played great. I don't think he did. I think he played lackluster in this game on the Bard, which is a little disappointing. And I would be remiss to not mention that.
Yeah.
One
thing we saw Core JJ do is punish. So it might be that he was the only one getting summoners out. That could be part of it. But I'm remembering him on the Karma, right? As soon as he flashed, Core JJ was there to put him in Tempered Fate and say, yeah, you're dead, buddy. So, I think that, again, not a fair comparison, Core JJ, but I'd say best support in LCS, hands down. Well, Vulcan's in the conversation now, but I think Core's got him. So those are some of the things that I think in a different game, it would have been nice to watch for, right? Is he keeping track of those things and using that ultimate to really punish them rather than just pressure them?
Yeah. So I'm just making that observation. I'm still very excited about Poome. I think he's proven to be an LCS level player already, even though he's, hasn't been in the league for very long, but, it ain't all roses and daisies or whatever the stupid the phrases. So, okay,
no flowers.
Let's talk in general about a couple things. I want to continue the Ryoma discussion really quick since I went on a pretty long thing with that. And I want to explain more about what I'm looking for. So you and I both said that in spring, he did enough to earn himself the full summer split. Okay. Mm-hmm. He was showing some sort of progress, flashes that were good, not a ton of flashes, but the flashes were there. And we felt like we need to give him the whole summer. Okay. Fact is, we've played through 7 out of the 9 weeks. Okay. So after almost a full year of Ryoma, I think we're starting to get a bigger picture of what he looks like. Now, no player is complete after a year. Okay. So I don't think any exact door is closed here. I do think, though, that there's mounting evidence that he's limited on the amount of dimensions he can affect the game. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we've been talking about with this Galio pick. It's like, okay, he's really great in that tanky facilitator role. Cool. What can he do on Zoe? What can he do on Azir? He's looked kind of good on Azir. Good enough that he's drawn out bans, so he doesn't get to play the Azir. All right. What can he do on, Orianna? Seems like teams have mostly figured that out, right? And I think that the picture has been revealed to us gradually. Again, someone who struggles in lane most of the time. Someone who likes the fights, gets a lot of damage out, which is good. He's especially damage efficient with the amount of gold that he gets. We've seen that borne out in the statistics. But it's not looking like he's got the all-around package that we're looking for in a mid laner, especially one that has the import slot. So at this moment, I'm starting to say, if he doesn't really crush these last 2 weeks, I'm not sure I would consider him in the long-term picture for the team. Maybe bumped down to academy, or maybe just gotten rid of completely. I don't know. But I think we're getting to the point where we have enough evidence to make a call on what he's going to do. So
yeah, I think that's fair. I think it feels like a reasonable take. Here's another thing that I think, if he were going to break through in the way that we were both hoping he would, and watching closely to see if he would this split, I think the Contractz arrival would really have done that.
Good point.
It gives him more room, right? You think about this last game in particular. Your bans in the first round were Graves and Nidalee, and they did throw in a 0 at him. Mm-hmm. But here's what can't happen, right? That you're basically your entire pool open to you, and they first pick Olaf, so every mid available except Azir, and he needs to be more dangerous, right? We have to ban out Galio because Damonte on Galio, he emoted too hard on that last time, so we had to get rid of it. But we need him to have more dimensions so that we can punish teams who decide to focus Contractz, right? And I think that's one of the ways that you prevent yourself from becoming a team with limited looks and dimensions, is to say, oh, you want to go after Contractz? Okay, good luck with that. He has Lee Sin, not his favorite, but he has it. And here are the other 3 things you left open that you're going to wish you hadn't. And I think right now we just don't have that, really. We don't have that threat. And if anywhere that's going to come from, I would expect it to come from someday. And so, not to revisit that topic, but we need our mid laner, especially in this current meta in NA. We really need that position to be almost the primary concern for a lot of teams, where they're saying, I really don't know who we're going to ban here and feel good about, because we've seen him play the Galio. He can absolutely demolish. I'm going to pull some other examples. He can demolish a team on Zoe. Don't forget the Zillion, right? Like, these are the types of things that other mids can bring. And we're not seeing that. And I think that is, at this point, that's the kind of progress that I think we need to be seeing to feel confident that longer term, there is a complex enough strategy that we can put together with him in the roster, that we're going to have hopes of really challenging consistently the top 3 teams in the league. We've shown that we can do it in flashes, right? But I think it's the consistency piece that's now missing, and that's where I'm just not sure that we're seeing the same progress that we'd hoped.
Yeah. Now I want to like just cut that a tiny bit different way, where you're talking about Contractz. As I understand your point, that Contractz, like if you have to worry about the pop off from him, then that frees up bans, that frees up stuff for your mid laner. Okay. The other side of that coin is if you have a mid laner, or if you have a jungler, who's thriving, typically that's going to help your mid laner and your top laner a whole lot.
Yeah.
All right. And if you can't take, like, if other than the Galio, right, he hasn't looked significantly improved even when Contractz is having a good game. So
right.
Yeah, it's weird, and that is something to worry about, I think, when it comes long term. Can't help but think about the champions that are meta right now and see Soligo's performance and wonder if maybe his mental hadn't been so affected by his first stint in LCS, which was kind of unfortunate. He's put into not the best situation. He's looking really good in Academy now, but I'm not sure that's the long-term solution either. So
and Soligo's first go around the LCS was a completely different situation.
Completely.
I think that the job that we would be happy for a mid laner to do, it might be that is something he can very easily do, right? Very comfortably do. And I'm positive that they're considering that and thinking about it. But at this point, it does feel like, I mean, if anything, I think if that's a consideration, that's probably something you're thinking about for 2021, right?
Yeah.
And so you'd weigh that against any other off-season ideas, options, possibilities you might have. Because at this point, I don't think it's worth the disruption and potentially subjecting Soligo to another kind of trauma run in the LCS where it's like, hey man, it's all hinging on you.
Yeah,
so no
especially around playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So throw him right back into the wolves. I think if he has a potential to play in the LCS, I think we need to protect that a little bit.
Yep. Now, I think the last thing here in the general topics, we're talking about the dimensions of this team, like how many looks that we have. I think we've alluded to this before where we've got the early snowball thing, right? That looks great when it's working for us. Other than that, what do we have? Question mark.
Yeah. I mean, going back to our post C9, Euphoria pod, that was like the where we left things. Wonder what will happen now, Cole. And there was a note of caution that we tried and maybe didn't do as good a job of injecting into that conversation as we'd hoped, but that's the concern, right? We had that element of surprise. C9, knows the Contractz. They know Contractz well. I don't think they expected that we would bring that. And who did expect we'd bring that? Everyone else since them. So there goes your element of surprise, and we're seeing teams prepare for us. And I think they're doing it in a way that's very effective. Credit to them. We need to counter prepare for their preparation, Cole. There's a little bit of 4D chess we played here, and we're unfortunately still running back the same tape. So that is the question still for me. And I think that what we might find is either we'll have limited ability to do that in the short term, or with the specific pieces in this roster, we just have a limited ability to do that at all.
Yep. All right, let's do predictions for next week, and then maybe if we're very fast, we can do a few listener takes. So on Saturday we take on FlyQuest. Jordan,
we've kind of had their number. They are looking pretty good.
FlyQuest in fourth place, by the way, right now at 8-6.
Yeah, they're looking pretty good. I want to see. Okay. I still believe, Cole, that we have potential. And I think that if we don't draft the way we did, we've actually looked really good. So I'm optimistic Jordan is here, and I'm not going anywhere yet if we get the dub. We've had FlyQuest number. We do a better job in draft, and we show that we can still win a game that is close.
Yeah, I think this is going to be our focal point when it comes to preparation. Is FlyQuest. I think that'll be the game that we focus most of our efforts on, and because of that, I think we'll be able to strategize the draft in a better way.
Yep.
And if we are able to pull off another draft masterclass like we did against C9, especially, I would say we could easily get FlyQuest taken down. And honestly, I think that's going to happen. So I'm predicting a dub against FlyQuest as well, probably to great surprise to the rest of the chat here, and maybe to you as well.
I'm glad that I didn't doubt us, because my reputation would take a blow if you picked a dub and I didn't.
I think people are going to be mad at me for cursing us, but and I'm going to do it again because I think we're going to beat Immortals the next day. No, that one's not as controversial. Immortals sitting at 3-11 at the very bottom of the standings, even below our old friends at Dignitas. We're not too far away, but
exactly.
But Immortals sitting at the bottom of the standings, and I just think that I just don't see them competing with us, honestly. Even if they get a good draft against us, I don't see us making like the egregious draft mistakes that could absolutely cost us the game, like we've seen this past weekend. So I think, guys, we're going to go 2-0 this weekend.
Easy. Cole, one quick note I will say is we cannot draft like that. That cannot become a thing, right? I know it is kind of a thing in the community, the league community overall. If that continues to happen, we have to add an item to our agenda that will be recurring. Do you recall Probably Watch?
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to go there, Cole. I hope we don't get there. I like what I'm seeing so far, but moments like that has to be a blip. That cannot become something that we have reason to return to. Can't be.
Yeah, we've seen a couple bad drafts this split, and justified or not, and like it or not, Zix does have a bit of a reputation for struggling in the draft among fans, at least. Mm-hmm. So that's something to keep an eye on. Jordan, let's rifle through like 2 or 3 of these fan takes before we wrap up here.
One sentence or less. Here we go.
Lil Thieves said, losing to Golden Guardians this weekend emphasized that 2020 World's dream is in fact a dream. Looking towards this offseason, what roster and staff moves will make 100T a contender?
All right, so Lil Thieves is going for staff too. If I have to give an answer right now, I'm going to say mid. And I'm keeping a close eye on our ADC position just because it's been a prolonged slump now. Those are my 2 options.
I'm going to say that probably mid as well, with a possibly Zix, depending on how the drafts go for the rest of the year. I do agree that the Worlds may be, unless we fix a lot of stuff in these last 2 weeks, Worlds is going to be a tall order for this team. Making the run out of the bottom side of the bracket is pretty tough. Like, you have to get up into that 6th spot to have more leeway. So that's going to be a thing. Speaking of, Palm Tree 5210 says, what do you call a successful season now? Is it Worlds or bust?
No. I would be happy with I would say, where we're likely going to fall in the bracket means that we're going to have a really hard go of it. So if we have a playoff run that feels like we have contended and competed, I will be happy because we have a lot of players with a lot of upside. And if we can get them some good experience and pick up some wins that make us proud, I will feel good. Same.
I want to get up into that like 4 spot to feel really good.
4 or 5. Yeah. That'd be great. But knowing that we might have to beat like a 2 seed to get there, I'm not sure exactly how the draft falls.
Yeah, maybe we could pull one over on Team Liquid. Who knows? And final one of the night, Patty J. Bowen, says the team's drafts these past 2 weeks have been questionable at best, which makes it seem like either they have no idea what style they want to play, or they're so confident in making playoffs that they are already experimenting for playoffs. Jordan, your thoughts?
I really think this was just an example of them being outsmarted. Kind of like you got baited. And I think I don't think it was us trying to find a new style. I think we would have loved to play Olaf had they not first picked it. Nor do I think that every win counts. So I truly think this was just an example of them. It was a draft masterclass in the same way that we saw it against C9 from our side. This, I think, was a similar or maybe even bigger flex from Golden Guardians because we kind of know who they are, right? And they still managed to pull this off on us. It was a job well done. Credit to them.
Agreed. I can't attribute this to experimentation at all. I don't think we're in a position where we're satisfied with having the 8th spot in playoffs. I think we're going to climb and claw our way up that ladder as much as we possibly can. So I'm going to agree with you on this. No surprise. Well, that is going to do it for us tonight. We are going to wrap this episode of Hunter Talk, but
everybody stick around. We're rating ourselves.
Yeah, we're rating ourselves. As you guys have probably seen, we are going to be launching our Valorant show tonight. Called Fast Peak Last Week. This is going to be a different format show, so it's not going to be the same length. It's going to be much shorter. We're going to kind of rapid fire some general 100 Thieves topics and then bring on resident expert Simo, our good friend. So it will be our first time doing this. It's going to be way different. It's going to be way experimental. We're probably going to look real stupid as we stumble through it, but we're looking forward to developing a cool show. So trust your dads, #trust_your_dads, because this is a developmental podcast that we're going to be doing. Okay.
Whoa, did you prepare that? That was really
no,
well done.
I didn't.
That was great.
But it should be a fun time. So it should run about 30 minutes and we'll start that around 10, maybe a little bit later. So if you guys want to hang out and sit around for the first ever Fast Peak Last Week, see what your dads are up to, we highly encourage it. This, though, has been 100 Talk, powered by Rivet Energy, the only good tasting energy drink. And I'm Cole, that's Jordan, and we are saying, as always, we love you and we miss you already.